Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another installment of our live pen review slash unboxing slash writing sample videos that we like to put on here on the Gold Spot Pens YouTube channel. It's my esteemed pleasure as your host, Tom Otto here, to show you one of the newest and latest releases from Visconti, Italy, which is the Visconti Van Gogh in the Dr. Gachet fountain pen. For those who are familiar with the Van Gogh line, it's been around for quite some time, but this is a new edition for 2018, as they have traditionally have come out with new colors, usually like one or two a year. And this year we're treated to two colors at the same time, which is the Dr. Gachet and the Red Vineyard, which are based off of paintings of Mr. Van Gogh, which is this Van Gogh's self-portrait gaze looking at you here. This box is an improvement over the original triangular box, which actually we just had here on the desk not too long ago. But this is a nice large rectangular box that actually has a canvas finish, which I think is a really authentic and nice touch to it because yeah, this Van Gogh was a painter and he painted on canvas. So this kind of like white textured finish reminds me a lot of a canvas, and the fact that you have part of his painting looking back at you and it almost looks like you're looking at the real thing. You could touch it with all the paint strokes on there. I mean, of course you can't because this is non-textured or it's not embellished, so you wouldn't, it's just a flat, textured surface on there. So lifting the two-part box, the Visconti logo, a couple of places there. We have the inside here, which reveals the pen underneath a Visconti sash. I have a ink cartridge, international style ink cartridge. Then we also have the international warranty. Has it in English, so you could read that here. I think traditionally Visconti is pretty good with their warranty service. It's just it usually takes a very long time if they have to send pens away to Italy to bring that back around. The other new item that comes with these boxes is a bookmark. So this is a sliver of the painting of Dr. Gachet, portrait of him that this pen is based off of. And what Visconti does with these pens is that they will use the color palette of the painting as inspiration for the color palette of the variegated resin that they use for these Van Gogh pens. So to show you as an example, there's a lot of different colors that are chosen, but there is definitely a palette. It's not every color under the sun, but there's a palette of dark blues and teals, and there's some peach and oranges and a little bit of red. And you could see that reflected in the material itself. It swirls with a lot of different patterns of color, and that's really what the whole style of this pen is all based on. Is the painterly style that Van Gogh was able to employ in his works of art. So a little bit of background on Dr. Gachet is actually he cared for Van Gogh during the final months of his life. Dr. Gachet is a well-known physician that took care of other artists, so he had an affinity to the arts. It was a kind of an amateur painter of his own, but he was a physician and he took care of other artists, which is the reason why Van Gogh, his family thought it was a good idea to go to him to seek help for his issues, and Van Gogh ended up committing suicide 10 weeks after being with Dr. Gachet, which it's a little troubling because initially Van Gogh even wrote himself that he believed that Gachet was just as sick as he was, and he almost saw, which I think is reflective in his work of him in this portrait, is that he saw a lot of himself in Dr. Gachet, which I guess misery loves company, that sort of thing. So it may not have been the best fit for him in retrospect. But this is a magnificent fit for this pen, to do like a little fun segue there. So, like I mentioned, the style of the Van Gogh itself is it's a resin pen. It's 18 sided, so you see, like, as I'm turning it, the light is hitting each of the different facets there, and it kind of brings the color a bit to life here. The swirling resin is put together probably by a custom pour, very similarly to how you see a lot of the custom pens that are made these days. Jonathan Brooks is one of them that does it. Kanalea Pen Company. There's a lot of them that have a lot of colors that are swirling, and lots of different colors that swirl together, which I really think is a beautiful look for a fine writing instrument. Just has a very artistic, sophisticated look, and very colorful as well. It's a complete joy to look at in your collection when you see something so much like a painting wrapped around a pen. So the patterns vary greatly when it comes to the Van Goghs. You may get this one and be like, oh, well, this looks great, but I don't really like this orange here. Well, there could be another Dr. Gachet pen that has no orange, or maybe has a little bit more white. So they're very different between each individual pen. Even if you pick a fountain pen, rollerball, ballpoint, very different between each of the pens. They all feature the My Pen system, which is this medallion at the top here is actually magnetically attached to the very top finial of the pen. So you would take a magnet, you would be able to remove this, and then put in either your choice of initials, or you could choose a gemstone or a zodiac symbol. There's a whole bunch of different little pieces that go on top of here that are available from Visconti. We also have them as well. We could customize them here to different gemstones and also initials. The clip is spring-loaded. It's a arc clip for those who love this or hate this. I know there's people in both camps that are fans and not fans of the Visconti bridge clip. And it's spring-loaded, so it provides great tension and snaps in quite nicely so that it attaches to the sheerest of pockets. Then you have the cap band, which has Van Gogh is engraved in relief. And traditionally, the other pens in this collection, like the Portrait Blue, the older models would usually have the name of the painting would be on here, but this all it says is Van Gogh, and then Visconti, Italy on the back. The bottom finial is a plain, flat-ended chrome piece. And so we're going to take a look at the business end of this pen, which is a metal section and a stainless steel nib. And I picked out the stub. It's a new addition for this year, the Stub Nib. So the newer Visconti models come out, well, the Van Goghs at least, and I believe the Rembrandts have a steel nib option that is a stub like you see here. And we're going to give this guy a whirl. The pens do come with converters, so I inked this up already. The converter is stored separately and usually has the cartridge in the barrel, but I already put this in and have inked it up. And the cap is not a snap cap, it's a magnetic cap. You see, like there, I just kind of had to, it just kind of comes together, that little little part here. Sometimes it just kind of needs to find its way, and see, it snaps in shut. So it's kind of a great, little fidget type of toy here, because it's, because of the fact that it kind of has that little pull at the end and snaps in, which is kind of cool. I have one of these in the self-portrait blue that I've used for years, and it really has served me well, and I'm glad to kind of do like a little impromptu review of this guy here, one of the newer finishes. So just looking over my notes, I think I pretty much covered everything, and then we're going to go into writing sample. But just first, I want to tell you the stats on this pen. So stats: weight 31 grams, 1.1 ounces. Not a light pen, not a heavy pen, kind of in the middle of the road. Length capped like this is 139 millimeters, which is 5.5 inches long, fairly standard. Uncapped, you're looking at 124 millimeters, or 4.9 inches. It's decent enough to be able to write with, I believe, without the cap posted. Then you have the cap posted length, which is 138 millimeters, or 6.2 inches long. And that's what it looks like. It's probably prefer, and I usually prefer writing with it with the cap posted like this, especially since the cap posts with a friction fit. It's not magnetic fit on the back, so it posts pretty nicely and it stays on securely. Excuse me. So barrel diameter at its thickest is 12.4 millimeters, or 1/2 of an inch, and then the cap diameter 14.5 millimeters, or 0.6 inches. So fairly standard in terms of like most fountain pens, just in general. So middle of the road. It could be a man's pen or a woman's pen. I could see either or. So we'll do writing sample. And for this demonstration, inked it up with Robert Oster, like toaster, Thunderstorm, which is a new ink from Robert Oster in Australia. It's a kind of like a blue-black type of ink. It's got a little bit of some, I believe, some sheen on it, I think, if you bring it on some Tomoe River paper. So right here, I was just doing a little bit of a demonstration of, this is a Laban broad steel nib. And then we're going to take a look at what this Visconti in the stub nib will do. So let's give it a whirl. Let me just test it, kind of get it going again, because I probably, from opening it and moving it around, it might be a little bit on the drier side. So let's write the name. So as you can see there, very, very broad lines. I just skipped a little bit there. Very broad lines. I would probably put this in at like 1.3 millimeters. And a nice fine horizontal line. And surprisingly enough, for a nib that really doesn't have much tipping material on it, it's very smooth. It doesn't have the drag that I would expect on, you know, such a nib that has got a high degree of line variation from the downstroke to the horizontal. And sometimes too, is like another thing I need to point out is it really does matter a lot how you hold this pen. It does have a sweet spot, and you see I'm kind of like, I kind of miss depending upon, you know, if I'm rolling one way or another on my hand, it will miss the stroke. So you kind of have to make sure always that when you are laying that downstroke that it's very even. And I'll just write, I'll just do a little bit of script here. Honestly, I think that this nib is going to be best suited for those who it's not like, let's say, an everyday writing nib, I would say. Because if you're looking at this compared to, this is a broad steel nib, and this being the steel in the stub nib for Visconti. So if you're looking at this and you're saying to yourself, well, for everyday writing purposes, note taking, whatnot, not extremely practical. It's not. It's a very thick. It's a very thick stub nib, and it's going to put a lot of ink on the paper, which is great for those who love to see their ink on the paper. But at the same time, if you're using this for note taking or you're writing in a journal that's got the thin ruling, it's going to make everything look kind of sloppy. You need to have like a larger kind of surface for this, maybe a larger ruling, to be able to let your handwriting breathe a little bit and let the ink kind of play on the paper. So maybe like a plain notebook would be good for this. Or if you get a plain notebook and then just put like a grid pattern on the back or a line pattern. Oh, and two is I want to kind of show you, this could be converted into an architect nib. And I say this kind of tongue in cheek. So as you write at this particular angle, you're getting a thick downstroke and a thin horizontal. If you write 90 degrees to that, then you have yourself a thin vertical and a thick horizontal, which is exactly what an architect nib provides. So I mean, it takes a little bit of adjustment and kind of like writing in this sort of way, but it achieves what you're looking for. If you want to all of a sudden decide to flip it and do architect style. Let's see if we're writing on the other side of the nib here. Dry and not apparent. So that's really the only game in town is writing with it on the correct side, just to kind of give it that one little last look here. So one of the things I would also mention too is when you're writing, when you're using this pen, it does work with a magnetic ring that's inside of the cap here. So one of the things you need to be conscientious of is not allowing ink or water to sit in that cap. Now I'm saying like, okay, well, I'm inking the pen. Well, how am I going to avoid getting ink in the cap? Well, just make sure that when you do clean the cap, and I do suggest you do that often enough, maybe like once a month if you're using it frequently, clean the cap out with some water, but then take a paper towel, cotton swab and whatnot, and just dry out the inside. Because if you let water sit in there and it just stays capped on for a long time, then what's going to happen is that this part is going to rust out on the inside. And that's essentially what has started to happen with my Van Gogh, because I don't listen to my own advice, or at least my advice ends up coming up to bite me in the butt when things start, happening like that. But it still works. The magnet still works for my pen, and I just have to keep a mindful watch over that magnet and make sure that it doesn't start to corrode. So, to kind of give you the overview of this line here. This is the new Dr. Gachet finish. And Red Vineyard also comes in one of the newer boxes here, so that's another style. It's a more reddish and orange style, and they're both new for 2018. And they're fountain pens. They're stainless steel nib. They are priced at $2.99, but if you ask us nicely, or you log in for a discount on goldspot.com, you can get this at a better price, at our best price. So definitely check these out. They had just arrived last week, and we're expecting more of Red Vineyard, and we have the whole complement of Dr. Gachet styles in, so they are available for sale right now. And appreciate you guys checking out this video. Please give us a like and subscribe to see more awesome pen videos such as this unboxing and other reviews that we have in store for you in the future. And appreciate you tuning in today. Have a great day and stay inky, my friends. Take care.